I was basically asking about the issues for constituents, many of them who feel that they're holding for HMRC on the telephone, that they don't have necessarily access to the digital services that are offered, holding for an extremely long period of time, possibly on a pay-as-you-go phone, and it's costing them a lot of money, and then when they get through they feel they're given a very unsympathetic hearing. And also to those customers who are being told we might investigate you and then being left to stew in it for a year or more. And in that specifically in regards to the loan charge issue, where it's caused real concern. So it's a two-part question, one on working from home, and you're asserting, Angela, that if people can do their job, and I'm asking you according to whom, because there are plenty of people who think that HMRC isn't doing its job efficiently.
Yeah, so if I might talk about the service position, and then Jim can talk about the compliance investigations piece. So it's absolutely true to say that over these last couple of years, HMRC, because we diverted significant resources to support pandemic activity, our core business as usual tax activity was to some degree put to one side on some of that activity. And as a reminder, we were still administering the COVID schemes in the first half of 21-22. So it was only when we got to the second half of that year and into this year that we've been back into a more business as usual situation. We have been really working hard to improve and catch up on our backlogs. So our plan was that by the end of the last financial year, which was March, we would be back down to what you might consider a usual head of work, which is about 2 million items. I know that sounds a lot, but it's about a month's worth of HMRC intake, and that is exactly where we were. And so we entered this year pretty much up to date in most places, which is 80% of our post done in 15 working days, and delivering a phone service which on average is in the high 70s, 80% phone calls answered. So I accept completely that when you're talking about the kind of volumes we're talking about, those 20% are an awful lot of customers. I think that's fair. But we are working hard to deliver within the funding that we have for service. Our real challenge this year, to really working hard to try to maintain that position, we've been hit by a few different things. So we talked a little earlier about those working from home expenses and the high volume agent market. We had 571,000 of those submitted to us over a 3-month period, which was 69% more than we thought we were going to.
That's slightly down in the weeds. What I'm trying to get at is I'd be interested to know, because I believe from previous reports that you don't have a sort of service standard. I'd be interested to know whether you think you should have one, because clearly, as we've seen in the case of the loan charge, I think even the Treasury has acknowledged that there are 9 suicides of people who've been investigated under the loan charge issue. And for many of those who are affected by it, they feel that this is a direct consequence of failure to get responses, failure to deal sympathetically with the case. And because there isn't a service level agreement from HMRC, it really is pot luck whether you're one of the 80% or one of the 20% that has to wait a considerably longer time.
So we publish every month performance figures, and we do aim to hit service standards. So in the case of advisors answering calls, I would like to get that up to at least 85%. So we're currently bumping along just below 80. In the case of correspondence, we measure the percentage of correspondence that is replied to within 15 working days and within 40 working days. And historically, our service standards on that have been 80% and 95% respectively. And we are bumping along just below those service standards at the moment.
Sorry, but Jim, that's management information. What I'm talking about is if I am the person who's writing to you, what can I expect? And in some cases, it's to hear nothing for well over a year about a case where you've simply told me you might investigate me, and I'm left to stew.
Yeah, if I can pick that up. So I think it is the case that in the past, when we had very large volumes, we were taking up very large volumes of avoidance cases, we would often open an inquiry, because then that protected our position, but then we would select a lead case to work, and the other cases would sort of follow behind it. So we would work the lead case, get through litigation, establish our right to tax, and then apply that to the other people. Now, I accept that in those days when we did that, that meant there was not effective communication with many people who were in follower cases. Well, I think it was at the time we, a lot of those people were represented by agents. We would tell the agent this person is under inquiry. We would expect the agent to know how that worked. But in July 2019, the then Financial Secretary committed that we would change that, and we would manage communications with people under inquiry much better. And because we do know that being under a compliance inquiry can be stressful, and we want to deal with people competently and professionally while we take them through that stressful experience.
So what do you say to people who've been waiting over a year, and what do you say to those who believe that suicides have occurred as a direct result of the way they've been treated by HMRC?
So anyone who is under a formal inquiry from HMRC should be contacted by us at least once a year. If their case is a follower case that we're not actively investigating their case, we're waiting on the outcome of another. Otherwise, we should be actively pursuing the investigation with them, and that's what they should experience. Once a year
at a minimum.
As a minimum, and that's what we have committed to. In addition to try and help people to understand, because most people either never go through a compliance inquiry or will only ever go through it once in their life, so they don't know what to expect. We have an introductory pack that we now send to everyone when we open an inquiry, explaining what it is they will experience and what their rights are during the inquiry. We also have videos on YouTube that people can watch, which again describes the process that they will go through if they're picked up for inquiry. We also have trained all of our officers to identify anyone who is especially vulnerable or needs extra support, to make sure that they are identified and that they are given the appropriate extra support that they need. That includes, we did that initially for people who were under inquiry for tax avoidance, but we have extended that to all customer compliance inquiries, including evasion inquiries. When it comes to death or serious injury of customers, obviously, we definitely do not want that to happen as a result of anyone's tax affairs, but we do understand that both being under investigation is stressful, and the prospect of getting a large unwanted tax bill that you may not now be able to afford can also be stressful. That's why we have trained all of our officers to identify anyone who may be vulnerable. We have got all of our officers can give a certain level of support. We have an extra support team to whom the cases can be referred if necessary, and last year about 110,000 taxpayers were dealt with by our extra support team. And a couple of months ago we started a new pilot with the Samaritans as well, where we can refer people if necessary to the Samaritans helpline to give them specialist help that we cannot give them. If there's any case where there's a possibility that death or serious injury has arisen as a result of contact with HMRC, we have a sort of independent internal investigation team that look at those, and if they conclude yes, there is potentially a link, we refer ourselves automatically to the Inspector of Police Conduct, who will determine whether they want to look into the case, or whether they want us to conduct a supervised investigation of the case, or whether they're just going to return it to us for a local investigation, or with a recommendation that we don't need to take any action. In all cases so far, even where the IOPC has said they don't require us to take any action, we carry out the equivalent of a local investigation in all cases, and to make sure that A, there's been no misconduct on our part, but B, that we just learn any lessons that we possibly can.